What's up everyone? Today we're going to be showing you how to do a front brake change on a 2010 Mazda 3 hatchback. So what you're going to need for this installation is a set of front brake pads and brake rotors. Today we're going to be only focusing on the front brakes. If you'd like to see a video on the rear brake installation, let us know in the comments below. But you're going to also need your car jack stand and lug wrench, which could be found in the rear of your trunk. But for today I'll be using my own jack and jack stands. Also, gloves are recommended to prevent dirt and cuts. You're going to need steel weld brushes, brake cleaner, brake lube, copper anti-seize, and a brake compressor. You'll need also a set of socket wrenches for the install. So with the lug wrench, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put your foot on it and kick it down before jacking up the car so that later on it's going to be easier to remove the bolts. If you're using an impact, I'm using the Milwaukee M18. Put a 21mm socket at the end to loosen the bolts on the tire before you lift up the car. The next step now is placing the jack under the jack mount, or you could also jack it up by the frame so that your tire is off the ground and you could remove it and do your brakes. Once your lift is all the way up and your tire's off the ground, I would suggest putting a jack stand there just for precautionary reasons so that the car doesn't fall while you're working on the brakes. Here's me removing all the bolts. Now that the tire or wheel is loose off the hub, remove it with your hands and place it aside so you have easy access to your brakes. Next is to remove any clips you see with the naked eye. Usually they're attached to brake pads so that it's easier to remove everything else in the future. Don't forget your gloves because you'll be working with a lot of rust. Take your tool of choice. I'm using a flathead screwdriver and pop off both clips so it looks just like that. Next, you're going to want to locate these two rubber tips. One's on the top, one's on the bottom because there's a hidden bolt inside. Pop both covers off on the top and the bottom. Next, grab your T45 Torx bit and you're going to want to put it inside of those rubber seals, which will then loosen the bolt. Once you place it in nice and snug, go ahead and loosen both top and bottom bolts. Once you remove the bolt, if I were you, I would take it and keep it in a nice spot because later on you're going to have to use silicone paste to keep it lubricated. Also, I'd suggest keeping a little tray with all your stuff in it so that you never lose anything. Now that you've gotten both bolts off, go ahead and grab the caliper and slowly wiggle it off the rotor and out of place from the caliper bracket, just as shown. Go ahead, grab your caliper and wiggle off any brake pads that are still on it. After that, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to hook it. I use a bungee cord to one of the coils so that you don't destroy any of the brake lines. If you don't have a bungee cord, you could always hook it on like shown here so you don't damage the brake line. But if not, I would really suggest using a bungee cord just for second protection to make sure it doesn't fall and ruin anything. Next, you're going to want to remove the brake caliper bracket, and how you do that is there's two bolts as seen right here, one on the top and there's going to be one on the bottom, and you're going to want to remove those and gently wiggle it off the rotor as well. You're going to have to use a 17mm socket to remove those bolts. Since the bolt is so tightly in there, I'm going to have to use my impact to get it out. First bolt out in the tray and go for the second. Now that both bolts are off, go ahead and remove the caliper bracket. It'll usually just fall off once you remove the second bolt. And there you go, now it's time to remove the rotor. Go ahead, shake and pull the rotor off. Now that everything is off, what you're going to want to do is find a metal wire brush and just scrape off any rust or dirt residue left on the caliper bracket, or anywhere else on the hub. Next, go ahead and grab your brake compressor and an old brake pad so that we could go ahead and compress the piston that's inside the caliper. Be careful when you're using your brush and don't take off anything else but rust and dirt. If you hit the seal right here around your piston ring, dirt might get in and seize your brakes while you're driving, so be very careful not to hit that ring around. Take one of your old brake pads and place it on the side of the cylinder, because on the other side you're going to want to put the big compression tool. Place it in as shown and twist it fully in so that your brake piston fully compresses. Spray down your new rotor with brake cleaner and wipe it down with a towel to get all the oil residue off from the manufacturers. Make sure to try to keep it clean after and do not touch the actual rotor with your hands, because if you get dirt or more oil on there, it might stop your braking distance, and of course you wouldn't want to have that. Make sure to spray down and wipe the other side of the rotor as well. Grab the new rotor and place it onto the hub. I took off my gloves so that my hands were clean and no oil got onto it. Now you're going to want to grab the caliper bracket, grab both screws that you placed in your tray, and place it back. Place both bolts back in and make sure it's nice and snug with your torque wrench. Grab some of your copper anti-seize and place it on the bottom and top part of your caliper bracket. That is where the brake pad sits, so it does not jam and moves back and forth smoothly. Next is to take your brake pads, nice and new, place them into the spot on both sides. I also like to take copper anti-seize and place it on the back of the brake pads so that it doesn't ever get stuck onto the caliper. Grab your caliper, put the new brake pad in just like that, pop it in, and place it on the caliper bracket. Take both screws that were under the rubber seals from before and wipe them off. Now grab some of your brake lubricant and put it all over. Make sure to put enough, as much as you can, preferably, so that nothing sticks. Put them back in the holes and tighten it all back up. Now that all 4 bolts are back on, don't forget to put the cap on the rubber seal so that no air or water gets inside. The caliper might feel loose to the bracket, but that's okay. That's just because the piston inside the caliper has no compression. So once you put the tire back on, pump the brakes a couple times and it'll come back. Grab your wheels, place it back on the hub. Go ahead and hand tighten all 5 of the nuts before using any power tools or socket wrenches. So that's it, guys. That's how you change brakes on a 2010 to 2013 Mazda 3. Sorry for not having any outro. We sold the car a day later to get a new 2015 Subaru Impreza. Make sure if you like this video to give it a thumbs up, comment, or subscribe. We are open to anything we could possibly do. Just let us know what you need done. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a good day. Peace. Yeah, but fucking dude, I literally dropped it here and just... First step, you're gonna attach it on there and kick it off like this. Using silicone brake lubricant and apply a small line onto your brakes.
It's not coming off. It's not coming off. It's not coming off.